So who would have ever thought that that could have been a possibility, and yet it feels like that's what we're living through right now. We're also living through the possibility that Roe v. Wade could be overturned and sent back to the states. But what's more, what's behind that? We explore those issues, and then we finish with a little fun, because that's what you need, right? Is Never Have I Ever, and who won? Stay tuned.
Welcome into the program, everybody. This is Scott Beeson with Alabama Unfiltered and my co-hosts, Amy Beth Shaver and Allison Sinclair. Ladies, how are y'all?
We're good.
We're great.
Y'all are good?
Are you going to tell everybody where to find us?
No, not until the end. Because if they're watching at the start, they've already found us.
Okay.
That
is that
does
how
make
we usually
sense.
do it?
No, we're changing it up.
We're-
'Cause I think,
you know
I think this is
Okay.
flowing.
It's unfiltered.
It worked.
Right.
I like it.
Well
I mean,
done.
thousands of people are already watching. So why do we have to tell them
They know
how to
where to
get here?
find
They're
us.
telling their friends. They're telling their family. They're telling people they don't like. They're telling their liberal friends.
I
Hey,
hope
what's
so.
them?
I really do. I hope that they're telling people.
Y'all are the ones that have to worry about it. Because liberal folks do not like conservative women.
No, they do
don't?
not.
No, that's
Not
like
why
the worst.
at
Almost
all.
one of
How
the
do they know
worst
what a
things. Y'all are
woman is, though?
sellouts. Well, they're not sure, but they're thinking.
Wait, they can come after
Maybe.
conservative women. There'll be women when they're conservative?
Yes. Yes, you see how it works.
Yes, you
It's
can
a
be a
game.
woman when you're conservative. Yes.
Well played.
You might be legitimately a woman when you're conservative. But yes, y'all are not.
But just barely.
You're not
But
high
just
on the
barely.
list.
Why?
Because you're like a sellout to the whole thing.
We're a
Women
traitor.
are yes, you're a
We're a
traitor,
traitor
to
to
your,
our.
is it gender or sex?
I don't know. I mean, okay, look, we're going to go with like
there's
the
a
birth
cause.
certificate.
Okay.
Your sex. You were
Okay.
either male or female.
You're a traitor
Again,
to
we're
your
a traitor.
sex.
It's okay. I
What
really-
the doctor said that first day when they slapped you on the butt.
I
and said-
enjoy being rebellious, so I'll
Is that
take
what it
it.
is?
Yeah, no, I'll take it.
Please. Like, let your rebel flag fly. Okay.
Hey,
Did you-
speaking of rebellious,
Mhm.
this is our transition into big rebel in the Supreme Court
Yeah,
that
no
leaks some
joke.
documents. Y'all, that is insane.
It
And that's,
really is.
That's like the first issue that we need to talk about
Okay.
is the fact that, like, where is the integrity? Where is the sanctity?
What are we talking about?
Okay.
Roe v. Wade.
Roe v. Wade.
Roe v. Wade. Okay.
I'm sorry. I got all fired up.
Right. You're like
Right off
passing
the bat.
our
Okay,
listeners or don't even know what we're saying yet.
When in the history has any drafted opinion been leaked from the highest court of the land? Like, those things are supposed to be sacred. When you go and work inside those walls, you, I would think, would take some sort of oath to silence and secrecy. And, you know, even if you are anti overthrowing Roe v. Wade, like, isn't there anything left in people that just has a loyalty to
So
an
who-
institution,
I don't
or
think so.
just
So do you think a leftist did it? Or do you think?
Yes, I think a clerk for one of the justices, I think people have an idea of who they think it was.
Already?
Yes.
Sotomayor's
One of
clerk.
Sotomayor's?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Sotomayor didn't tell her to
Yeah.
do it?
Well,
to do
not
it? Sorry.
necessarily.
Could've been-
Yeah, seriously.
Right?
I know there's
Right?
a whole Adam and Eve took it and ran with it, but like
Right.
it was a, I
Come
think
on,
it was a
man.
male.
Somebody said,
Yeah.
did God,
Well-
did the Chief Justice really say we can't let these out?
And here's the deal. Do you not think that in their effort to put this out there and like do a gotcha, I think that this person didn't realize, I agree with you 100%. Where's the honor? But there is no honor. Because if there was, he wouldn't do this. Number one. But number two is the pendulum is going to swing back in favor, I believe, of honor and decency, because people are so outraged by what he did. Even people who are moderate to liberal on the issue are outraged.
Do you
And
think so?
I-
Really?
I
Because I
think
haven't,
so.
I haven't
I don't-
felt that.
I don't think, I think in terms of the court, now this is going to lead to conversations I think about court packing, but I do believe that even if people are crazy liberal about abortion and women being able to do what they want to do, which they're out of their minds about this,
Right.
people are surprised by what happened. And I think that's going to be a good thing in terms of upcoming elections for conservatives. Now, if you look outside of the Supreme Court, people have lost their mind.
Let me read this that was in the New York Post or New York Magazine. I'm sorry. This was an Instagram post. The title is, "The Leak is Good," actually. The Supreme Court leaker, whoever it is and whatever their motivations, has done a public service, both by giving Americans who support reproductive rights a head start on mobilizing for post-Roe legal order and by damaging the court's mystical aura of legitimacy at precisely the moment when it deserves to be damaged, writes David Cleon. Okay, that is terrifying.
That is.
So the court deserves it now, right at the moment that the court
it's changed
deserved
everything.
it, right.
If it works in your narrative's favor, the court deserves it. Can you imagine if a conservative had leaked a document?
Yeah.
What the narratives in the media
they would be calling for the firing squad.
Oh, I mean, it's unbelievable, the hypocrisy and the damage that they've done, and that they're advocating delegitimizing maybe I was going to say the one branch that we had left that I thought had some integrity. That's questionable. But we are on the brink of total destruction of America as we know it.
Yeah,
and I don't say that
the
lightly.
Institutions are...
Right.
Absolutely.
I mean, we already have, no faith in the FBI, the Central Intelligence Agency. I mean, we have a deep state. All the intelligence agencies that worked against the sitting president have done all kinds of things. We find out just a couple of weeks ago that they've lied to the American people multiple times on the Russia-Ukraine stuff.
Yes.
The stuff they get caught for, and then they say, well, we were doing that, but we were playing mind games with Vladimir Putin. I'm like, really?
Yeah.
Would you have told us that if you didn't really get caught?
No.
And I mean, everything is under attack. And the Supreme Court has been one of those things that, they've got
Seemed
their
insulated.
right, and seem to at least continue to pretend that they're doing it the way they're supposed to do it. And that's been totally broken. And the person's being celebrated, whoever it is.
Yeah, they are being celebrated. And I think we need to make a delineation between the crazy people who are out there doing this sort of horrible, atrocious, damaging situation in the media. And then there's those regular, everyday people that we know where we're conservative, they're liberal, and they're looking at this and they're like, even I'm shocked by what has happened.
Right.
So let me make it very clear that there is a very big difference because I'm adopted. I've been around the pro-life community for my whole entire life. And when you're dealing with pro-abort, you're dealing with a completely different kind of animal. You really are. But then you do have people who are left of center, who are horrified. Not anybody that's in the media, but people that I know are like, that was too much. So I think to that end, it will be helpful because people's eyes are open. The red-pilled moments are going to continue to happen to say, if this could happen to our courts, if this could happen to the highest court in the land, and then, oh, by the way, we see them ushering in more discussions about packing the courts. People are like, wait a second.
Right.
So I think the Democrats are going to get obliterated in the midterms. That's the good that I think out of it. The bad is that this happened and that this person is being celebrated. And
which causes other people to want to do the same kind of
Right.
thing.
Well, exactly.
If you were a leaker in the Trump administration,
Right.
you're a hero. If you were a
Yes.
leaker in the Barack Obama
Right.
administration, which is, I guess we're on Obama 3
Right.
with Biden, then you're a terrible individual. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
right.
really a complete...
hypocrisy,
total
like Allison said, unbelievable.
standard.
But will those people speak out? Because if
I
they
hope
won't,
so.
the narrative gets taken over. Because when conservatives speak out, well, they're just crazy conservatives.
That's right.
So that those people are going to have to step out. And again, it goes back to what you always talk about truth and doing the right thing, no matter what side the benefit falls on. And that's what we're up against. Like if
Right.
we can't protect the integrity of the courts,
Even when
the
they
White
make
House,
terrible decisions,
even if it's not what
we ought
you're-
not know until the time.
well,
Right.
I mean, and that's what I always think about. Like, if the shoe is on the other foot, would I still be advocating for integrity and honesty and I hope so. I hope so, because
Right.
that's the right thing to do. But it's really hard to stay on do the right thing when the other side never really has that integrity. And that isn't that always the tension of like, at what
Always.
point do we take the gloves off
Right.
and just
That is an excellent point because this whole sugary sweet niceness, all of you people who voted for Biden that thought it was okay because he was kinder and gentler, I am looking at all of you right now. Like you did this.
do you think they still like can sleep at night and they're like, this is
I don't
exactly
know.
what I was going for?
But can you imagine like that's the thing like this and then the flip side, are all these people in church that we've talked about the COVID crisis and what happened there and pastors selling out
Evangelicals
people.
for Biden.
Right.
Yes. And you look at that and you're like, did that work for us?
Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'm reading Psalm 144 and it says, and I was listening to something this week talking about that it was a sermon on Sunday. Psalm 144 talks about he trains my hands for war. Like this idea that we have to be soft and sweet and drink sweet tea and have cookies and lemonade and not talk about anything hard, is ridiculous. This is ridiculous.
I mean, we've learned
And so the
we should have
gloves
learned
have
our
to be
lesson
off.
by now, right?
Yeah.
How many decades and decades do we do that? How many times do we get taken advantage of? And it goes kind of back to the court packing thing.
I'm sorry.
Conservatives
Right.
work to get people elected, work for decades trying to get justices on the court who might someday say, you know what, we really did make this whole thing up when we made up Roe versus Wade.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a horrible decision. It's unconstitutional, just period. It was made up. So they work and work and work and work and work and work. And finally, through all kinds of great blessings, possibly are right there on the brink. And the left, who has loved the court for decades, because the court does their their actions for them that they can never pass through the legislature, through the Congress, and then the left says, I think we'll put some more members on there.
That's right.
And so the response is, well, from the conservatives, wait a minute, what are you doing? Why do you get to change the rules?
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that really, really, really could cause the country to start really dividing.
Yep.
Is that court packing thing?
Well, and Bernie Sanders tweeted out about it almost instantly after this opinion was leaked about packing the courts and ending the filibuster, and that it had to be done now to
we
codify.
will do it Bernie's way.
Yeah.
We'll do it the leftist way. Or if you're winning, we'll just change the rules and we'll force you to do it our way. Is what the left is saying, are they not? All the red states, all the conservatives, you will live in the utopia we're going to create for you. And if you fight back, we'll just change the rules.
Okay, that's a great point, because here's the thing, and it goes back to like when we were talking about LGBTQ and being a furry or whatever you want to be.
Spirit animal,
a wolf. It's like, all I'm asking from the other side, honestly, if that's what they want to believe and that's what they want to fight for, I'm great with that. Just let us do the same without changing the playing field. And let's apply the freedom and the protections that we have to everybody, not just the people that go along with you.
Right.
And that's, one of the things we're going to talk about is this disinformation governance board.
What in the world? I
Which-
brought props today.
Okay, we can't even
for
go
that.
there, but we're going to get there. But that's all that is the left not wanting to play fair, and I'm kind of tired of it. There's no equal. They're all for equality and equity, except if you're on the other side. Then we're going to squash you and put you in re-education camps and call you all sorts
And
of
I
names.
think that's where we have to jump in and make them define the terms. We have to flip the burden of proof when they make accusations to turn around and say, all right, show me the receipts. What do you mean?
Right. What
Like
exactly
we need
does
to,
this mean?
because I feel like as conservatives, we're always answering the questions. We don't always have to answer the questions. I listened to a guy named Greg Kokel. I've mentioned him before, but one of the great things that he taught me years ago by listening to some of his seminars was that it is our job to stop feeling like we've got to answer the questions and turn around and say, tell me more about that. What do you mean by that? Let's define the terms.
Right.
How did you arrive at that conclusion? And force them to answer the questions, because they're lodging these assault missiles at us constantly. And then we're like running, oh, I'm so sorry. No, stop it. Next time somebody does that, I'm throwing this in just for free today. Stop and say, I need you to tell me more about that. And we're going to define
Show me the
terms.
proof where what you're talking
Show
about
me the
works.
proof.
Where it works somewhere. Right. I remember when the press would do this all the time when we were in the legislature. We would go out, I would go out and say, hey, we've got some ideas about fixing education. And the press would be like, what are you going to do? Well, we're talking about school choice, maybe some vouchers, some tax credits, doing this. So they would, oh yeah, let's ask some more questions. Oh yeah, how are you going to do that? Oh, is that going to be using taxpayer dollars? Oh, are they going to be able to go to church school? Yeah, because you can't do that. And they would just write all these things down, and then they go right across the hall to the Democrat. and say, what are you going to do? And he'd say, well, we're going to do some things to fix education. And they're like, because you love children? That's awesome. And never ask them anything, but they want to get in the details so that they can find a detail and say, okay, half the teachers are against this because they might lose some tax money, and half of the people are against this. So we would answer all these questions and just give them more and more fodder to use against us. Yeah. And then the other side just gets we're for education because we love children. Well, I mean, it's fascinating. And that's kind of what you're saying. Yeah. And we do that all the time. We play on their field when they say that, that we're threats to their democracy. I talk about that on my radio program all the time. Our democracy means something to them. Is when Barack Obama said he wanted to fundamentally transform the country, he meant changing it into whatever our democracy is. But for years, we heard America.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nobody, I don't want to hurt America. They don't mean that. Bernie Sanders doesn't mean that. Elizabeth Warren doesn't mean that. And I think people are beginning to figure it out. A lot of people heard about election integrity, fakey ballots, and people are kind of getting enough information now to go, there was something there. And then they got the whole deep state thing. And now they've got people leaking from the Supreme Court. So I do think you're right. People are going to say, something's wrong.
Yes.
There's going to be some people that don't. I think there's some people that are just so blinded, either in their staunch defense of their actions or just blind, that are never going to see it. But if you don't think that fundamentally change our country is happening and that this was the plan, then I don't know. Listen to some more of our podcast or something, because
come out from under the rock.
Yeah, right.
You're exactly right. And I think to put a point on what you were saying as far as having conversations with people and asking them where they've been, like, what are you paying attention to if you don't see this, in helping people open their eyes. And when we're asking questions of people like, where have you been? Mm-hmm. How do you not see this? The other thing that we fail to use as conservatives is humor and satire. And I think we would do ourselves a great favor if we believe that we know how things end, and I believe we confidently do, believing in the Word of God, then we have all confidence in the future, even if getting there is going to be horrific, right? But there needs to be, in my opinion, a heavy use of satire. We're not funny. And I wish that we were. Some people are funny.
Kind of offended by that.
We are funny. We are funny.
I'm not even. Allison's funny.
Think about the conservatives that you're
not trying to be funny.
We have a carve out of ourselves that people are like. It's kind of like Presbyterians. I'm Reformed, ride or die, right here. Right. But they're not funny. They're not. They're not funny. They're very serious. Right. We must have this conversation. Okay, guys. Seriously, we need to use humor as a weapon and do it well.
That's what Rush Limbaugh did.
He did it really well.
Right.
And that's something that, even though we are talking about the most pivotal issue in our country, because you have to be alive to do anything at all, we do need to consider
that was funny.
Throwing in.
Yes. You're
sarcasm.
Right.
You gotta be alive.
So anyway, I just,
So a little less preachy.
Yeah.
But it's easy to get into the preachy because you want to say, what is wrong with you?
You do. You want to.
And maybe we need to do a little bit more of the whole, I'm not really sure about this. It just seems weird to me, hoping that they hook on to it just seems weird.
Right.
Because if you tell them this is weird, they're like,
yeah.
Conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat.
I mean, think about it. And I literally was listening to somebody on the way in, but this is such a good point. But like when you have a baby, do you say, congratulations on your fetus?
That was funny too.
Do we say that?
So cute.
Such a cute baby.
What do you say when they're fat? He's so healthy.
Yeah, healthy.
Right.
Healthy.
That's true.
That's such a healthy fetus.
Just start using. It's weird. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, okay.
But you got to know who they are.
You do.
If their car rolls up and it's got the blue dot on it, then you say, that is such a beautiful fetus.
Yep, you do. I'm just saying, it is an idea worth considering. Obviously, we can't be
Because
funny
I
all
would
the time.
enjoy it. I don't think they're going to laugh.
But it's okay. We don't want them to laugh. I think it's the best way to mock them with their own philosophy of life is to call it out in front of their face without them getting out of it. And then they're left with, wait a second. Because we're not trying to win them over. We're putting a stone in the shoe of their thinking. And if you can use satire to get to some of the people, that would be great. But I heard that and I was like, that is too good not to use. That's hysterical.
The fetus thing?
Yes.
You saw where President Biden said something about ending the life of a child or
Yeah,
something.
I heard that on the way down on the news.
Whoa.
And then
Yes,
he got shuffled
off to
away
Buffalo.
Wait,
by
it's
his,
a child? And is that woman pregnant? Oh.
with a child and not a
I hope he
just
didn't
a
do
what is it, a
that.
non-viable tissue mass?
It's
and the president said,
Yes.
and then like in 1982 or 81, he voted for the constitutional amendment to put
To
Roe v.
send it back to the states.
Yes.
Which actually,
But he doesn't remember 1982, so
I could make so many jokes, but I'm going to be
Go ahead.
respectful.
and
of
that
the
wasn't for
office.
good reasons.
Yeah. That's okay. Yeah. Anyway. That leads to what I was going to ask was what does this look like for Alabama when this passes? And I know we passed 2 years ago a really strong pro-life bill.
That was supposed to be the strongest in the country. It was basically
Yes.
there's none. And if you do one, you go to jail, right? The doctor goes to jail.
Yes.
So here's the question, which I do believe this issue belongs back in the states handling. I think that's right. I think that's what the Constitution would suggest, as there's zero in it about.
Right. Or in a perfect world, we would say right to life actually means right to life. And
Right.
then no one gets
Right.
one. But the best we're going to do is go back to the states.
Right. Well, in the states, no, that's exactly it. I mean, if anything, the government is there to protect life
That's right.
and property. And it's what we talked about yesterday.
Right.
What is the definition of life? For conservatives, it begins at conception for most of them. That's the crux of this. So if this does get kicked back to the states and that opinion was true and genuine, which it appears
And they
to
don't
be,
chicken out or
And they don't
worry
chicken
about
out, and
the
they
health
don't
of their families.
die, because
really good
I'm
point,
sure
actually.
they've gotten death threats. That wasn't meant to be funny.
No,
A lot of
I'm
times,
serious as
yeah.
a heart attack.
So it comes back to the state, Kay Ivey passes her, we're the strongest pro-life, whatever, blah, blah, because that was all under the umbrella of Roe v. Wade. It really was kind of for nothing because Roe v. Wade was still there.
It was to help foster a possible court decision. It was to be the king of all the bills to say, we're going to quit messing around with 15 weeks and 8
But
weeks.
do you
and
really
heartbeats.
think, this is the question, will our legislature and our governor uphold that if this happens?
I've already said that some legislators are going, oh, crap.
Yeah, they didn't intend for this
'cause-
to actually happen.
Right, because they're not really big pro-lifers. They just thought nothing will happen.
They wanted this for their election campaign. I promise you that's why
yeah.
they did it.
They used to play all kinds of tricks. Have I told you that story? In the old days, how they did it? So when I was first in the legislature.
10 years ago.
I know, it seems like the old days
Okay.
when the Democrats were in charge.
Okay.
So even the Democrats wanted to go back and campaign and say, I'm pro-life. I'm a pro-life senator from so-and-so. So what they would do was, one year the Senate would just make a big deal about the pro-life bill and the senators would pass it and it would pass overwhelmingly, and then it would go to the House. And they couldn't get the budgets done. And things were tangled up. And we don't know
all
if we get.
makes
So
sense
that
now.
year, it would pass in the Senate and fail in the House. The next year, they would start it in the House. The House would pass it. They would all vote for it, go to the Senate, get hung up. And we did that multiple times.
Because they can go back and claim they
voted for the pro-life
That's
bill.
genius.
Yes. When-
It's so evil,
It's
but
so
it's genius.
When we passed the first or second version of women's right to know, I thought they would die. Because that's one of the things. There's a few great victories I had. And that bill was on the calendar, down in the House, not supposed to get there. I go upstairs. I'm talking to Steve Wyndham. And I'm like, can you hold them in? Can you get them distracted?
Isn't that a singer?
Yes. No. Steve Wyndham used to be lieutenant governor. Now he's a lobbyist.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
But so just hold them in a little while. Go downstairs, convince a couple of guys to say, look, my bill doesn't really matter. And we shuffled through and got to the pro-life bill, the women's right to know bill.
Yes.
Some of the House members thought the Senate was gone, and we passed it. And then they realized
Well played,
that they
sir.
were not gone. And you would, I mean, people who were literally, oh, I'm a big pro-lifer, were mad. And so that was one of the victories. So we did some good things
Well
from time to
done.
time.
Yeah.
And I think Mary Sue McCurkin was
Mary Sue's awesome.
was the sponsor of that
Yes.
bill. And some of those backroom things she didn't even know we were doing because she didn't expect it to actually get there.
She's a boss.
Well played.
And actually, Mike Hill from Shelby County was one of the
love that
guys who
man.
actually gave up a bill and to help us get through. It was
That's
great.
good people
Yeah.
right there.
So I don't even know, are they even in the legislature or something? Did Mary Sue
Mary Sue retired.
retired? Okay, good deal.
But
Yeah.
I think you're right, Allison. I think that's a very good question. But I believe it will call people out. And I do agree with you that they are quaking in their boots right now because they're not completely pro-life.
Does that bill, that's the other question. So it's in the court system now,
Yes.
trying to get to the Supreme Court. If the Supreme Court says this is a state issue, does it automatically mean that bill is the law? Or do they have to,
I don't know about
since it's in the
that.
system?
I think I don't know.
Yeah, because when they pass,
That's such a good answer.
I think I don't know.
gonna
When they
adopt that
passed
one.
Roe v. Wade, they just flushed all those kind of bills all out at the same time.
They
So
did.
I would think this
Would
would do it.
Flush in.
Would flush them back to the states, and then
Yeah.
they would be law, and we would have the toughest law in the country, which would be celebration
Which is why
time.
we're even more reviled than we already
This is
are.
going to be so interesting because I think they would release it. Don't lose your thought. They
gotta
would
agree.
release it like in June or July,
Mm-hmm.
which would be before the term was up, which is really going to be interesting. I'm glad it will hold them to it to see what they do. Did they call a special session to try and amend it?
And try to wheel it back.
Yeah, that.
Well, their primaries will be over. That Republican supermajority primaries will be
what?
over.
Oh,
Got a long memory. We're just going to keep notes. We've talked
I
about
don't think they
accountability
will, because
before.
I think there's enough genuine pro-lifers who will realize, oh no, this is my time.
Yes.
This is the time that they need us. There are a little minority of people, and we will
well, and you
burn
can't
the
look
place down
weak.
before y'all.
You can't
before y'all do
look
that.
like you really are better to stick to your guns. Otherwise, you look wishy-washy and weak,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the Supreme Court. We were talking yesterday. If they go back and change their opinion, that's going to look really badly on them.
Yes.
Hey, just hold us hostage. Just bully us a little bit. Oh, and then we'll switch.
Right,
So I
right.
feel
We'll change
like,
our mind.
yeah. Anyway, it's going to be really interesting to
Very.
see how this, and then which pulls us into the Ministry of Truth.
I don't want to get there. I got one more. I got a
Oh
strategy
yeah,
question.
you do. Okay.
Strategy question is, because the left will go crazy if this actually is the decision, or Roe v. Wade is rolled back to the states. They will go crazy.
Oh,
And they'll start trying to get states to back things up. My question to y'all is, well, then what is the strategy? Because I think there is one. What is the strategy for the pro-life people? Do they declare victory and go away? Or do they, and so what do you think they ought to do? I've got an idea. I just want to know if y'all have thought about it at all.
So I think what they'll do is they'll continue to fight. I mean, I think we've already gotten, I've gotten texts from groups that I'm involved with today. So we will continue to fight. We will
In the states
in
that
the
still
states
have it.
that still have it. They will continue to go to battle because the people that I know and am involved with are in it for the long haul. But then we also come along and we'll support and we'll continue to support the mothers and the babies and the families.
Right.
There's a group that I love that meets the mothers wherever they are. And our deal is ultrasounds. What does she need? What can we help her with? We save her.
Right.
And then we will give her an ultrasound because we know when they see that baby,
Yes.
greater than 80% of the time, they will choose life. Sometimes it's, estimates are higher. And then we help with the baby. But we don't, it is a whole woman approach, which I love. And we're going to have to continue to do that. And there are lots of organizations out there that are doing the same thing. And so I think people have a battle mindset, but we have the people that have been in the fight have fought so long that they felt defeated. Like, what in the world am I doing? And any shred of hope was like, is this too much to be hopeful? But I think there are machinations going on behind the scenes that if this doesn't work out, I know of some other things that are going on that will continue to push the issue.
Right. Okay.
that's so interesting. And it, being pro-life means more than just being anti-abortion. It means
Right.
being pro-adoption, we've got to find foster families and it means supporting the mother and providing for a lot of needs, whether it's alternative birth controls. I mean, there's a whole slew of issues that we will need to address as a state and a country if this does pass. So I hope we don't just throw our hands up, because yes, this is the first step in Alabama to supporting life, but we got to keep going and support those mothers and those families that are making these decisions. I don't know. It's interesting. That's a good question.
I think from a political standpoint, what the pro-life community should do is go, this is great. This is a victory. But life begins at conception, and the Constitution said, you know, I mean, our founding documents are life, liberty, and go for full out
Agree.
across the entire country. And that does a couple of things. It puts the left, who abortion is part of their religion. I mean, it is,
Amen.
it is,
It's part of their platform.
it is,
I mean,
it is who they are. I mean, and if all you have to do is hear them howling outside the Supreme Court, like banshee, literally
Yeah.
like banshees.
It feels like
holy
it feels
moly.
Old Testament. Keep going on.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, if the pro-life movement changes and starts aiming at, hey, look, everybody has a right to life. We were created by God. Start at conception. That's what should have happened. They won't have time to come and pick on Alabama. They won't have time to pick on these places. They will be panicking about the whole country pushing for a full-out ban everywhere. So it keeps them off balance.
do you think
strategy.
the opinion didn't go far enough? In it right now, it kicks it back to the states. Do you feel like
I think
it
in a
should have?
perfect world,
Right.
they would have said there is no right to end another person's life.
The Constitution
You
protects
can't.
all life.
Yes, you can't do that. So I'm thinking we're getting the best we can get, but in a perfect world, we wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
So what I'll do, because I agree with you, and I think that if you use, first of all, specifically to life beginning at conception, and then second, the things that pro-lifers are doing to put a point on it, is that, medical textbooks, Chris's medical textbook talks about that it is agreed upon. Life begins at conception. Every single thing that is needed to begin another human life happens at the moment of conception.
Where the little spark is, right? Is that true?
Yes. And so
Want a
there's
mommy
the
and a
DNA.
daddy.
You know, everything is needed.
Funny.
DNA right there, another human person right there.
That is separate from the mom.
That is separate. We
Different.
never ask somebody, "Oh, what are you pregnant with? A cat?
Right.
A wombat?"
Maybe.
Like, who knows?
I've seen some ugly kids.
You have seen some funny looking kids. Okay.
A wombat.
We didn't have any of them. But, so I agree with you 100% that we need to go for life beginning at conception, but that's agreed upon. The science of embryology says that life begins at conception. So we need to get there. Because who are we to say, well, no, actually begins 7 weeks down the road or when they're 2? It's ridiculous.
Well, where does
arbitrary.
life
It's very
begin
arbitrary.
at the endangered sea turtle?
Right? Hey, and we're
You
going to
go-
close off the beach for those
Right.
cute
Go
little
crack
critters.
one of those eggs.
And the
see,
whales? How about the whales?
Yes.
It's
Well,
ridiculous.
And it's like, what is it? Sustainability? Because if that's the case, a newborn is not self-sustaining.
No.
Like your 2-day-old can't survive if you just leave it in a room.
Well, don't give the left any room,
So-
because some of them are okay with infanticide stuff. Remember?
And what you were just talking about is this arbitrary point of viability or conception or life. If you are on federal property, I think this was a George Bush Jr. thing. If you were on federal property and you commit murder and the person you murder is pregnant, it's considered double murder.
yes.
If you
Was it
kill the
under
baby.
federal law? Because I know it's state
Yes.
law.
Mhm.
In Alabama,
It is
if
in
you
Alabama.
assault
It
a
is?
pregnant woman, it's 2 charges.
Okay,
Yes.
I feel like it's on federal
Which was a
property
big deal
as
to
well.
pass, by the way.
Wasn't that like in?
Was
I
that
don't even
you
know.
too?
No,
Thank
it
you.
was one of my best friends,
Well,
Spencer Collier.
but
and there's a
isn't
great
that-
story about that, by the way.
Either it's a human life or it's
Right.
not.
That's right.
And so this arbitrary assignment to the value of a human life has got to be addressed,
Right.
which is kind of what you're saying.
Well, because you know what it does is it separates us into 2 classes of people, human or not.
Ish.
We did that, and we did that before,
Well,
didn't
isn't
we?
that the big
Was
argument? Created by God, or are you just another animal? If you're just
Right.
another animal, can't
Well-
you thin the herd and
Think about with
manipulate
slavery.
it?
Yeah.
I was not
Yeah.
a person until I was a person.
Right.
So we're creating two classes of people.
Mm.
And
those who are wanted,
those who are wanted,
not.
and those who are not. Those who are, well, we're going to validate that their life at 15 weeks is life, but before that, it's not life.
The day before.
Exactly, the day before.
Exactly.
Or up in New York State, up until the day of delivery. If you don't want that child and you go running into the clinic and you're like, I don't want this baby, they will kill that baby. So
After it's delivered?
Yes.
Oh, that is the thing.
That is what they'll do.
I didn't know if they finally passed that or not.
That's the part that I think is interesting, is that there are two classes of people in the pro-abort world. Those that have value and those that don't have value. And we know from history, when those have value and those that don't have value, that never ends well. And it hasn't ended well for us here. So this is a fascinating opportunity to stop the slaughter in
and talk about the
abortion
value of
clinics,
people.
and talk about the value of people from the beginning until the end, from conception until
So
the
how
end.
many people, population-wise, actually are pro-abort? They're like really for it. That's part of their religion, like we talked about earlier. How many of them are militantly supportive? And then how many people end up on these polls or whatever, these surveys, who just think they're supposed to say, well, I'm supportive, with no idea what the process really is, don't really think about it? Because frankly, I think a lot of young women are lied to.
Yes.
When I saw the fights against showing a young woman, the sonar, or that
Right.
kind of thing, and then these different abortion industry people didn't want to show that, and then they try to kind of skirt the rules, and yes, we got to monitor, but maybe you can't see it, and all this kind of stuff. It shows me that they don't want people to really know what's happening, especially young moms. So how many people really think, hey, this is wonderful? And you've seen some of the comments. I saw a lady's comment. Well, maybe one of y'all sent it. The lady's
She
comment
said
about
she wanted to have Trump's baby and
So
then
she
kill it and rip its head off.
yes, that one. Who would post that? Is that somebody I'm supposed to know?
She had a check mark by her name too.
That could have been the check mark. That could have been
unbelievable.
by the box that
No,
said
it was
"bat
the
crap
most-
crazy" check mark.
Evil thing I've seen. I mean, it was.
Who is she? She put it out. Maybe you can tell me who it is.
It was awful.
I'll have to go back and. Oh,
Hold on, I've got
Eric.
it. Yeah, Eric
Eric
sent
posted.
Yeah.
See if you can find
I'll
it.
grab it.
While you're looking for that, I had a really, I don't know if you saw the thought bubble above my head, but this is funny, but it's a serious, like if you're pro-abortion and you're pro-choice, do those people have baby showers when they're pregnant?
That's a really good question.
That's
No, it
good.
really is. Like, and I'm not even trying to be funny. I mean, I would think they would do, which they would have a baby shower, but that's totally hypocritical.
It is.
because
Because it was planned.
because
You see.
well, maybe
We're back to wanted.
Yes.
you're back to whether you're wanted or not, or if you need the baby crib and those blankets because
Right.
you don't want to spend the money. I
Right.
guess it's just conditional
Well, let me
on
ask
if
you
it's
your
a baby
federal.
or
Let me
not.
ask you your federal law question
Yeah.
about whether if I murdered or assaulted a lady who was pregnant, do they go to the lady and say, "Hey, did you want that baby?" And she says,
Well, she's
no.
dead.
She says no. Okay, that's right. What about assault? What about assault?
Well, maybe
Oh.
she scratched,
Oh.
like,
Right,
I
dying.
didn't want it.
What if
Right.
she doesn't die, but the baby does? That's what we can
Okay.
talk about
Okay.
because then they would still be charged with
But
murder.
if she
Yes.
says I didn't really want it, do I only get one charge? Because she was planning on
Where's
doing
Matt
away
Clark?
with it.
We
I
need
don't
him
know, but you see what I'm
yeah,
saying?
that is a good
Well,
question.
it is. It's very arbitrary. And so it really is an excellent point that you brought up, that we have to get to the agreement purely based on science. That every medical student knows, they may not agree with it, but it is in the science textbooks, regardless of your if you're a liberal, conservative, whatever. The science of embryology tells us that life begins at conception.
But if we can change the definition of a vaccine,
We can change anything.
can't we change Can't we change
Of course,
that?
and that's what scares me, is that they're going to go back and they're going to try to change that definition. Not for turtles,
Right.
sea turtles, mind you, or dolphins,
Everything
or
else
whales.
begins at conception.
Yes.
But this
Not
cannot.
humans.
I mean, you talk about some of the guys that are at Yale and Harvard, and they think that a child shouldn't be considered a child until they're 9 months old. I mean, so it's completely ridiculous and very arbitrary. I know, isn't that nuts? Yeah, he's a bioethicist.
No,
at
there's no
Harvard.
ethicists there.
They're
There's-
not. No, I mean, it's a
there's
joke. Like his
Okay.
name, like it's a misnomer. I mean, come on, man.
It's
But
an
you're right.
oxymoron.
It is.
So asking the question about them just changing a definition like they did with vaccines, How do we know what information we're getting is right? I mean, the government's wanting to put together, y'all were telling me earlier, a Office of Disinformation. What's it called?
Let's talk about, it's the Disinformation Governance Board.
But if you want some fun and games,
really-
you need to go follow the Ministry of Truth on Twitter because it's hilarious. It is
There's your-
taking
So the Ministry
it
of
straight
Truth,
to
that's
them.
from 1984,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
The Ministry of Truth.
Which is exactly what the
But
Governance
this-
Board is.
If you want a really good book and you want to reread what you had to begrudgingly read in 10th grade English or for summer reading.
We did Animal Farm.
Read this. We did that too.
It's probably small.
And I've got,
smaller.
what's the other one that's really good? Animal Farm, this one, and
Atlas
then
Shrugged.
Yeah.
Nobody
you know what
read
I'm talking
Atlas
about?
Shrugged because it's really,
Oh, I
really
loved
long.
it.
So long.
It's super long.
yeah,
need
but
to
the
watch the
quotes in
movie.
there are very
they're
good.
really, they're good. It's
But
good
it took
stuff.
one summer I was on
The
the
Hunger
couch 'cause
Games, I
had
kind of feel like we're in the
surgery.
Hunger Games too.
It's true. It's
The
very
Hunger
true. But there's
Games.
a lot
Just
of
watch the
good books
movies.
out there that
I
you
mean-
want to
Allison didn't read
familiarize
the
yourself
books. She
with.
watched the movies.
Well, I did watch the movies, but I'm like, we're going to be fighting over food soon.
We are, which is why I have somebody helping me with my garden so I can grow food. All right, that I'm just being honest with you right now. Anyway, the Ministry of Truth.
It's just this weird dystopian, like everything just gets stranger and stranger. And is stranger a word? It is a word.
It is.
Yeah. So
Curiouser, I don't think is, but
I like that
stranger, I
one
think
better
is.
though. So they've hired the Department of Homeland Security.
That's the little Mayorkas guy, right?
Yes.
The little,
He has hired this Jakanowicz. I can't really say her name. Nina Jakanowicz. She is a disinformation expert with experience working on Ukraine and Russia issues.
of course she is. Wait a minute, she's
feel so
experienced
good
with
right
Russia
now.
and Ukraine issues.
Listen.
like she just I'm an
Disinformation
expert in Russia.
expert. That,
What does that mean?
Disinformation's been around
I know
about a year.
a lot of people in the legislature were disinformation experts. They were great at lying.
I mean, that's what
Isn't that what it sounds like?
It's
Yes.
It's the
so
technical term for a disinformation expert is a liar.
it's so weird. Here's her comment recently about Elon Musk's bid to buy Twitter. I shudder to think about if free speech what's that word?
Abolitionist?
Absolutist. That's it.
That's why she watched Hunger Games.
I grew up in Tennessee. Just kidding. Well, I was going to say abolitionist, and then I thought Aborigines. And I almost said, I was like, no, that's Scott with the Aborigines
There
story.
it is. We've been
That's
waiting for
rough.
that for 13 episodes.
That's a whole podcast.
Yes.
But my brain.
For somebody.
All right, let's start over. Okay, I shudder to think about if free speech absolutist were taking over more platforms. What would that look like for the marginalized communities, like the Aborigines?
Oh.
Anyway, she's lamenting about free speech and Elon Musk offering free speech on Twitter. On Twitter.
I am
Panic.
a robot.
Somebody told me.
All right, listen. Here's the situation.
Yeah. So telling the truth, being able to tell the truth, the whole
Right.
truth and nothing but the truth
So help you God.
is, yes.
You know
is
what?
unacceptable.
All you have to do now when you get to a murder trial is say, I am telling the truth, change the definition, and then
Yeah.
say, I wasn't there, even though that was my gun. How do you know that's my gun? And just make up whatever you want and say, I'm free, bye.
Right.
I mean, literally,
I mean,
somebody
my truth could be different than
take this
truth.
to the logical conclusion. What is going to happen here? Like, take it as far out as this can go. What does that look like?
But aren't we almost out as far as it can go? I mean,
I
we're
think so, and
literally-
then we're not.
We're literally debating that it's bad that people get to say what they think.
Can you imagine?
I mean, I just can't. I can't imagine public figures. Can you imagine our government, the United States, the one place in the world that freedom of speech is supposed to be sacred? It is our own government, our supposedly elected officials, saying we need to do away with that.
And it's so scary because it's so incremental. Like, it's just a little bit to where you don't even notice, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more. And now all of a sudden you look back and you're like, okay, over the past 2 years, I don't even recognize America anymore.
Well, it worked with
It-
COVID.
yeah, it did. It
They
did.
were able to basically tell people telling the truth, you are silenced. So
That's
why
right.
not go for it on everything?
And because we let them. I mean, if I were them and I had an evil, maniacal plan, it works because we just sit back and let it happen. I mean, there's a few of us that fight it and talk about it, but generally as the public, we just go about our day, especially as conservatives, where we just want to be left alone and provide for our family and go do our jobs and work hard. It's so hard to engage. But I mean, I joke about re-education camps, but y'all, I mean,
Not far off.
I don't know. I hope we're next to each other and it can be a little fun.
The re-education
Maybe.
camp.
Yeah.
Yes.
The problem is there's probably multiple levels, and
that's
there's the
terrifying.
You're going to the basement for sure.
where the
We'll get
torture
you out.
chamber
Yeah.
is.
Don't worry.
Y'all are going to break me
We're
out.
going to
Thank
come
you
break
so
you
much.
out. Yeah, we are.
You know, when on your podcast, I know on your radio show, when Brian gave his story, I don't know if you were listening.
I wasn't. I was out of
He was
town.
talking about administrative segregation,
Yes.
basically solitary confinement.
Yes. Prison
where you're
inside
going.
of
That's where I'm
prison.
going to be.
Yeah.
Yes. But we'll find you.
And at least talk to me through the
Yes.
2-inch concrete
Here's
block
how
wall.
we're going to find you. When you're
Why
taken
am I going
back,
to the worst place? I thought y'all were going there
Because
with me too.
super-
because you're dangerous.
Yes,
So if
you're
you
very
could leave
dangerous.
some sweet tart ropes on the way,
To get y'all energized.
we'll find you. Be like, there he is.
We will not give up.
Indubitably. We'll get the keys.
Indubitably. Absolutionist.
It was the Coke
That
Zero.
was a big word.
It was.
I think we should probably call it and just move on to never have I ever, because
I think we should call it a day.
this
We're at the 45-minute mark.
no
We are.
I have great
You'll have to save it
No.
for the next big thing.
Scott
Next
Beeson.
week, we'll have, what is
No,
it?
we're
doing-
Never
you're-
will
no,
I ever.
never have I
What's
ever
the
made up
score?
my
You probably
questions.
changed the score for you to be winning.
4-3-2. I am winning.
I'm 2.
You're 3.
I'm
I think
2.
you were 2.
Nope.
You're down to 2?
I'm down to 2, but I've got some good ones. Hold on, let me pull up my questions.
Okay. You want me to go first?
Yes, but
Okay.
don't look at my questions.
Oh, I hear them saying that
All right.
we're almost done.
Stop
We need
it.
to stop.
Adrian's muted.
Sure.
Stop.
Yeah, Adrian is
Okay.
having a great time right
We're going to
now.
go speed round.
Okay.
Since you've
All
got
right.
to go.
All right.
Never have I ever been arrested.
I've never been arrested, so does that mean I'm staying where I
Yeah,
am?
you stay at 3.
How did I get a 3? I thought I was
Because you
winning.
smoked a cigarette and you did something else.
I didn't smoke a cigarette. One puff is not smoking a cigarette.
Okay, Amy Beth.
2.
You're
I'm
up.
still at 2.
You
You're
still
up.
2?
All right. Never have I ever climbed a water tower.
Oh, I have.
I don't think I have.
Oh, a water tower? I've
I
climbed a
just
tower.
made myself almost lose.
You did.
You lied?
Oh, Amy Beth's going to ask a question that's going to take one from her.
Amy Beth.
She does not understand this game.
I do.
Hey,
This is
good
not the
news.
game where you wanted to kiss somebody in high school or whatever, and you're purposefully losing.
Okay,
Why did I do that to myself? What a dork.
you know what's so awesome though? I'll make you feel better.
What?
We know now you're honest because you did and you took one away. So you're an honest person, but you're about to be a loser.
So you've got another question?
Oh, I've got several more.
Okay.
Never have I ever.
Have you not done anything ever?
Never.
No, this
Never.
one's taking Scott out.
Ministry of
Never have I
Disinformation.
ever worn a wire for the FBI. And he's down to 2. I'm telling you, it's
That
going
is
to be.
just wrong. That is wrong.
We'll beat
I don't
you.
know enough about y'all to ask these questions.
Go
that-
ahead, ask a question.
Just think of something you've never
Just,
done.
come on, you're a great questioner.
I'm trying to think something I've never done that. Now I want something that y'all have done that I've not
yeah,
done.
yeah.
Okay. Never have I ever had a baby.
Cut.
That's unfair.
That's unfair.
That's a give me, and you're
That's
out.
a good one.
I'm out.
Go on.
We could.
No, see, we
go-
can't degrade. All right, go back to one. That's unfair. Go you do one of your
That's
questions.
not. I
That's
thought that was
unfair.
good.
Look
I
how-
thought that was good because I've got one that I can follow that up with. That's
How
really
do you
not
have
appropriate.
4?
Because she's cheating. That's why. She
Because
started.
y'all remember, I got to ask all the questions first.
but you were
'cause y'all
down
didn't
to
have any.
almost nothing.
Never have I ever eaten an entire pan, a pan of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies.
I haven't either.
That is as unfair because you looked at my gut and said, Scott has eaten
Have
the whole
you?
pan. Of course.
Well, put your
Every
finger
man-
down.
I didn't know which finger.
That's how you feel about this. All right. I'm taking you out with this one, Scott.
Oh, I've got one.
Okay, go.
Oh, go.
Never have I ever drank more than one sip of wine at a sitting. You should probably take off too.
I'm out.
Wait.
That was as close to the chocolate chip cookie. I hate wine. I've tasted all kinds of wines all over the world, and it just all tastes blech.
Okay, it's me and Scott. You ready?
Am I really down to one?
Never have I ever faked sick from work.
I haven't.
Never have I ever cheated on a test. Ah! Yes.
That is so wrong. I mean, you're going to like some
Where?
lowly grade in school.
Oh, what? I thought it was.
Where's
gonna
our
play-
cheering?
I don't know. I was gonna play some music.
There's probably no telling what you just played.
You know, who
I
knows?
wonder if it's.
Adrian will fix it because he's
Are y'all
good.
happy now?
Happy.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
so
you.
proud of you for
I
playing
know you
along.
didn't want to do
Why
that.
did you want to help her? She doesn't have self-esteem problems or anything.
I
And you
just-
had to
I
let's
gotta
play
help
this
my sister
game.
out.
Yes, I do. It's terrible. I'm lost. I'm mad.
Uh-oh.
All right, but look, we've got a great show next time.
I'm so excited. I'm going to have to really pull
I mean,
it together
AJ's
for that one.
coming, and I'm very excited about that.
Wait, tell everybody who AJ is.
So AJ Hurley, right, was interviewed on our podcast that we filled in with Brian yesterday, and he's at the Supreme Court and at the steps. He is the one who found the full-term babies behind the DC clinic and has pictures of
chills.
it.
Ugh.
And he's amazing. He called out a senator. We'll save that for the show. He's an unbelievable person, and we have the opportunity to talk to him next week. So
Can I tease a little more about that story?
absolutely.
I was doing some research this morning, and basically he has been a pro-life activist around the country for a while. And two of the girls that he works with were in DC. There's a notorious clinic basically where everyone in DC goes for their abortions. And they happened to be behind the building, and there was a medical waste truck that was back there. And they lobbied and asked the driver if they could take these two buckets basically to give these, they thought there were fetuses in them, and they wanted to properly bury them. And he gave them to them. And when they went through the two basically buckets, they were like white buckets, there were 110 first trimester babies. And then there were 5 full-term babies that were in these boxes and buckets.
Gosh.
And he has pictures of them, like, and it's really descriptive about just the mutilation. But like you could see fully formed features, faces, you know, where their brains had been sucked out and just caved in, and their puffy eyes, and just how, but it would be like looking at your newborn
Oh, it
child.
would be terrible.
Anyway,
Terrible.
he's going to be on to talk with us, which is kind of amazing.
So
'cause
next week may not be a children's episode.
A guess.
well,
So we'll give a warning next week
yeah,
before the
we
show.
do need to give a warning.
Any last words before we sign off? Do you want to sign off since I did it wrong at the start? You could get it. Go after
I
it.
don't know how to do this
it.
except this is Alabama Unfiltered. Thanks for joining us today. You need to go like us, subscribe to us. Please share the podcast. Even if you don't like it, it'd be great for us if you would share it with your family and friends and post it on your page. Follow 1819 News. I'm trying to be really professional.
You're doing fantastic.
We're on
Way
so
better.
good. Isn't she doing a
and
good job?
Gab and YouTube, and you can find us on Podbean. And we're just so thankful to have you. Give us 5 stars, give us a thumbs up, and join us next week.
She has a new job.